Today I'm going to be taking a look at the iFlight Commando 8. This is another compact gamer style radio. They seem to be all the rage at the moment. I don't get on well with them at all. I'm not a gamer. I have really shaky hands caused by medical conditions, and even before that I'm heavy-handed, so I need the weight and resistance on the sticks that larger radios provide. But with that being said, I understand that a lot of people want a light radio with really light sticks, and out of all of the ones that I have tried, this is probably the lightest in weight and also the lightest on the sticks. It's very minimalistic with two shoulder buttons that are non-momentary, so you can use them for arming, unlike the jumper transmitter. And then we've got two very familiar 3-position rocker switches which you could use for your modes and stuff like that. Now, I hear some people complain about these not being your traditional metal flip switches, but in my opinion, the whole idea of these compact radios is that you can throw them into a backpack without anything breaking. In fact, this very week I've replaced 3 switches on my Tyrannus, because if you just throw that into a backpack, the switches will break off. And even the mini switches on the Xnight I've had break off, even though that radio's quite old now. So there is merit to these rocker switches and these buttons that just push in. There's no trim button, so this is predominantly a quadcopter transmitter, unless you're using something like iNav. These joysticks are for navigating through the Edge TX menus, and I have to say they are probably the most intuitive out of all of these that I have used. There's a lanyard hook which balances perfectly, and underneath there's an included SD card, which, as I mentioned, comes flash with Edge TX, but it's compatible with OpenTX if, for some reason, you want to lose some features and live in the past. The USB Type-C is for updating the transmitter's firmware, and it can be used as a simulator port. But this is where the Commando sets itself apart from the rest, because the USB port also charges the 2 included 18650 Lions at 20 watt, which puts itself under the Quick Charge 4 category. They're also wired in parallel, which gives you a 4000 mAh 1S battery, and in all of the time that I've been using it, I haven't needed to charge it once. So the fact that this radio is so light, but it has 2 18650 Lions in there, is pretty impressive. The USB port can't be used for updating Express LRS, and it does not have Edge TX pass-through, but more on that later. A short press of the power button will give you a quick indication of how much charge is in your battery, but of course you can look on the screen to get the correct voltage. And it's a DJI style double press to turn it on. You will be greeted by a very loud
"Welcome to Edge TX"
welcome, and it's already got the latest Lua scripts that you will need to run the radio. I didn't feel any haptic feedback though, so I'm not sure that it has that in there. The sticks are removable, and they offer different sizes as an option to suit your needs. And the gimbals are plastic, but they are Hall sensor gimbals with the best center position I've seen on any of these small radios. You do have to calibrate them to achieve that though. I really like the folding antenna, which also twists vertically to suit the orientation of your receiver on whatever model you are flying. The screen is small, which is actually my preference, but it's nice and bright outside, as you will see later. And now I'm going to go on to the back, and I've left this last because there are multiple versions of this transmitter. So this is the 500 milliwatt 2.4 gigahertz ELRS version with a built-in CC2500 chip, meaning that it will also bind to FrSky and Futaba. But currently there is no 4-in-1 option at all. There is, however, an 868 version and 900 MHz version with the CC2500 chip, but this is where the radio starts to go downhill. The base version, which is ELRS only, is $129, and when you add up the price of the batteries, it's comparable to the competition. But add the CC2500 chip and it's $169. You also might recognize that there is no light module bay, and that's because the Express LRS is not actually internal. They've just made it look internal. In fact, to use Express LRS, you have to enable it as an external device in Edge TX. The internal option is for the multi-protocols of the CC2500 chip. They give you an Allen key so that you can remove this external module. It has its own fan, which is on all of the time, regardless of the power output. I hope that they release a firmware update to fix that, because there's no need for it to be on all of the time. And it has a USB port on the module itself for updating ELRS, although I had no problems updating everything via Wi-Fi. So why do they allow you to remove what they call the internal Express LRS module, which is actually an external one? Well, it's because as an extra option, you can buy a compatible light bay module, which sends the price up to $185. And if you want to swap out the modules, you'll have to be really careful, as it involves removing the micro UFL connector from the ELRS module, which is a delicate thing to do in itself. I think they say that you get 10 goes or less before the UFL connectors are destroyed. But there's an added challenge, because they have used a very strong adhesive on top of the UFL connector, increasing the chances of it getting broke. So I don't know why they are not selling a CC2500 version or a 4-in-1 version with an integrated light module bay, but at the making of this video they aren't. Now, I fly mode 1 and can change modes by removing these two back plates. However, I could not get these plates off without using a prying tool. There are two 1.5mm hex screws. One releases the spring tension and the other applies tension. But I found that there is only one sweet spot that took maybe 30 minutes to find. Otherwise, the throttle doesn't completely sit at the bottom. It kind of springs up and you get that error message when you turn the transmitter on. The throttle isn't at 0. There's 4 Phillips screws under the covers, which I assumed would be to take the transmitter apart to access the batteries, and perhaps some stick tension adjustments, but that's not the case either. The two halves of the transmitter are clipped in so tight that even using my premium prying tools, it started to damage the plastic and in some areas started to stress it, so I gave up. Patrick from iFlight assures me that there is a way to take the transmitter apart using prying tools, and that will be shown at some point. But the fact that you have to invest in tools and potentially damage the radio in the process is just undesirable to me, because with a 20-watt quick charge, those Lions have the potential to get damaged and will need to be replaced at some point. You might also want easy access to the batteries if you want to swap them, because I don't know, you ran out of battery, but I'd really be surprised if you needed to do that in a day's flying, given the capacity of the included batteries. And you can fly while it's charging via USB if you like, but there is no tension adjustment on the gimbals, which is a problem for me because they are far too light. There's also no audio jack, no trainer port, there's no wireless Bluetooth, although on an unrelated note, I've been in contact with the Express LRS devs to see if they can implement some sort of wireless trainer function, because they have Bluetooth built in, but they say that they could perhaps implement it with their backpack system. Now, I mentioned earlier that the sticks are removable, but there's nowhere to store them if you're just throwing it in your backpack. Sure, you could put them in a pocket in your backpack, but I'm clumsy and I'd end up losing them. The box that it comes in does have a place to store them, but that kind of goes against the idea of throwing it in a backpack. And even though the joysticks are very intuitive, they are labeled, but the labels are the same color as the shell, so it's really difficult to read. The plastic does feel quite cheap as well. It looks much more premium than it feels in the hands. I also mentioned that you can use the USB port with a simulator, but it won't prompt you to do that when you plug a USB-C cable into it. You're not given a USB-C cable with the package either, by the way. You have to press the power button and the USB cable is in place before you get the joystick option. There's actually a fault with my radio. The last green LED doesn't light up. I believe I'm the only one to report this, although I have seen other videos where that last LED isn't lit up. I don't know, maybe the battery wasn't full, but I have reported it to iFlight and they are putting it on their quality control testing list. Now, you see, I bet you thought this was going to be a biased review, didn't you? I don't do that. I just hope you didn't just watch the first half of the video and then made your decision and went to buy it. Don't do that. Anyways, let's all go and laugh at me trying to fly with this thing using a DJI model and a Carex polar camera with canvas mode enabled to ruffle some feathers. It's actually bound to my Beta FPV receiver, and that's the great thing about Express LRS. You can bind to any receiver, it doesn't matter what brand, make, model, or anything. I can only apologize for my shaky hands and my terrible flying. So, the Commando 8. As I have specified all through this video, I really struggle to get on with these tiny controllers. My hands are shaking all over the place. Just not enough weight behind the thing, which I'm used to. I've been flying for 30 years with basically bricks. And so the only way that I can seem to get like any kind of result is if I press my thumbs on so tight. But even then I just cannot get anything smooth. And I guess that's, you know, the reason to go to pinching, but I've tried pinching and just doesn't suit me. I can't fly any better. I've tried countless times in the sim to no avail. Actually dialed my rates down on this model here. It's the Xnight 35 from Beta FPV. So yes, and DJI running canvas mode. Make of that what you will. You should be able to see the things that I can see on the goggles now, which, you know, is the voltage, 15.2. We've got the amp draw, it's around about 5 amps. RSSI, very low a number. You really want to go after link quality. It's because I'm out of line of sight, so that I can do this overlay thing with my transmitter that I for some reason like to do. I totally get the appeal if you are coming from, you know, the Xbox and the gaming. And, you know, if you just want something small, but the problem with me is I can't fly with something small decently. I don't think anyways. I mean, I'm getting a little bit used to it now. Snappy, y'all. But yeah, the idea of this video really just to show you that it works. And it works well. It works, you know, it's comparable to the other ones out there. I just, like I say, don't get on with them. Hands too shaky, hands too big. Feels like I'm trying to fly with like a child's toy or something, you know. With all due respect to you guys who absolutely love these things. I do have the Cadex Peanut on board, but I don't know if that's going to capture anything nicely because it's not mounted in the best way. Settling down with it a bit now. Think I need to add expo and maybe dial the rates down even more, because it's just that in that center position. That center position in the stick is so twitchy. And hopefully I've smoothed out a little bit, not to annoy you. Yeah, it's starting to become fun now. Yeah, the sun was out earlier, but just couldn't hook up a decent time to do this. It's people walking all over the field. It's actually been quite a sunny day. For once. And not really a windy day. For once. So that brings all the dog walkers out and stuff. One thing that does impress me with this transmitter is its stick center. You know, with them being, they are Hall gimbals, but it's kind of become a standard now. They are plastic, but the centering on them is superb. I could not fault that whatsoever. You do have to calibrate the sticks though. I'm flying here in mode 1, probably going to confuse a lot of you. Sorry about that. But anyways, that is my review of the iFlight Commando 8. I'll put a link in the video description as well as a pinned comment if you wish to get one. And as always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.